Next, we are hosting a very important discussion. It's a conversation with Maria Corina Machado. And she, as you know, is the leader of the Venezuelan Democratic Movement. Ms. Machado is going to provide a comprehensive analysis of the current state of democracy in Venezuela right now and the implications of it in the region. So please welcome to the stage now Matthew Swift. He is the co-founder, president, and CEO of Concordia. And Maria Machado will be joining us virtually via Venezuela.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for this session. As Laura said, this is an incredibly important conversation and one that is most timely. If I can see Maria Corina Machado, but now all of you can see her. So, Maria. So, Maria Corina Machado, thank you very much for being here at the 14th Concordia Annual Summit, and thank you for taking the time. You are currently joining us via an online platform, but essentially in hiding in Venezuela. And so your intervention at this summit is incredibly important to us as an institution that cares deeply about Latin America and the Caribbean through our Americas initiative, and frankly, for years and years, have passionately covered the important issues facing your country. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Matt. It is a huge honor for me to be here with you, sharing with all the members of Concordia. As you know, I wish I could have been there with you. I've been banned from leaving my country for over 10 years. I've been in hiding the last 57 days, but I know I'll be there soon with you, and I'll also invite you guys to come to a free Venezuela.
Absolutely. Let's talk about July 28th. I think that it is important. There's a lot of people in this room that follow you passionately and have followed the issues facing Venezuela, but there are also a lot of people in this room who might not fully know exactly what has transpired on July 28th. Can you talk a little bit about what's unfolded in this election?
Absolutely. There have been 25 years of this very cruel regime, and we had an opportunity to reunite Venezuela. Only a year and a half ago, our country seemed hopeless and divided without, a solution in the short term. And we decided what they told us was impossible, to unite our country around values and around a common goal, which was what everybody told me. I want my family back. I want my kids back home. So we went from tiny communities to cities all over the country, united around values, dignity, prosperity, freedom. And we managed to turn this into a social, and I would say cultural movement. We had a very important milestone, which were the primaries, organized exclusively by civil society. And then with a legitimized leadership, we went towards the election. Under the rules of the tyranny, you have to bear this in mind. We had no media whatsoever. I couldn't make not even one interview on TV or radio. We had no money. We had only volunteers. And we organized the most robust platform to defend our votes, with over 1 million volunteers that displayed all over Venezuela the day of the election. And in less than 24 hours, we managed to collect, digitalize, and put in a very strong web page our tally sheets, over 84%. So we proved our victory. This is the first time this has been done against the Chavista regime. So we used technology, we were innovative, we outsmart the regime, but most of all, we trust our people. This is a movement based in trust. So now we're facing the hardest next phase, but you should know that we will never surrender. The world now understands that this regime is unsustainable. Maduro is totally isolated and we need to move forward until he realizes that he has to accept a negotiated transition.
Well, I want to talk about the concept of a negotiated transition, because I think that there is a practical element to this, which is you're dealing with someone who is not currently leaving, certainly won't do so voluntarily. Where do you see things standing today on some kind of negotiated agreement here with President Maduro?
That's a critical point because, I mean, we are not surprised from what Maduro did in the aftermath of the election. We had the worst repression wave we've seen in this century in Venezuela. Even the Inter-American Commission said it could be called as practices of state terrorism. And just last week, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and the fact-finding mission talked about crimes against humanity. So Maduro has decided to isolate himself with the top brass of the military and repress and persecute. That's the only thing he's got left. But this is not a sign of strength. This is a sign of desperation. It's important to understand this. Every day that goes by, he's more and more isolated. He loses even more support within and certainly abroad as well. So when is the point where Maduro would accept to negotiate? That is the moment the cost of staying in power by force is higher than the cost of leaving power. And we're not there yet, but we're moving in that direction. We need to increase that cost for Maduro to understand that his best option is to accept a negotiation. How do you increase that cost? Of course, with diplomatic pressures, of course, with international justice, certainly closing the inflows of legal activities he gets from drug trafficking, mineral trafficking, smuggling, and all sorts of these activities, and certainly increasing more and more popular strength and pressure. And that's precisely what we're doing. This Saturday, we will have a global demonstration. It will be over 450 cities around the world, and there will be hundreds of towns in Venezuela.
I want to talk to you a bit about what you want, or what you would like, your call to action to the international community. But staying on this point around the negotiation with Maduro, are you against something, any kind of deal that would involve some sort of immunity for him?
I think that in order to lower the cost of living, which is the other element in that equation, certainly we need to give incentives and guarantees. But the specifics of those elements ought to be discussed in a negotiation table. It's absolutely inconvenient to address them before we reach there.
We're here in New York. We so wish you could be with us in person, because I know your intervention would be incredibly powerful. But you know, it's the one time of year that the majority of the world's heads of government are all within about 30 blocks of one another. What's your message to them?
You know, it is obvious that what's at stake in Venezuela goes well beyond our borders. It's not only about, you know, a humanitarian catastrophe that is condemning a whole generation to live without education, health, or their families, but it goes well beyond. We have to understand that Maduro has turned into the main ally of countries such as Russia, Iran, Syria, Cuba. One of their main objectives is to destabilize the region politically, but also using migration, which is horrendous for us. Maduro is interested in seeing millions of Venezuelans leaving their country, and they leave because they find no future for their children. So if this agony by Maduro is extended, we could see 2, 3, 4, 5 million Venezuelans fleeing, going through Central America, even some reaching the south border of the US. We need to turn this all over around. We need to have Venezuela back again as a real trustable partner of the security of the hemisphere, promoting democracy, and freedom, and certainly using our huge potential to turn Venezuela into the energy hub of the Americas. I mean, there's no other country in the region that has our oil reserves. We're the eighth reservoir of gas in the world. We are the 11th reservoir of fresh water in the world. I mean, Venezuela can turn with a democratic, transparent government such as ours into the biggest single partner to solve the world energy crisis.
I think, and I want to build on that a bit in terms of your vision for Venezuela and the vision of Edmundo Gonzalez. Talk a bit about some of the key priorities should this administration, frankly, be fulfilled, especially based on the results of this election indicating that he was the winner.
Well, everybody knows Edmundo Gonzalez is president. Everybody knows that. We have to start by saying that. Every single government in the world knows that. And there's no way you can allow popular sovereignty to be ignored. And this is something I want to stress. There's no way this regime under Maduro can be stabilized. There's no way. And we Venezuelans will not surrender. We'll fight until the end. We've never been stronger than we are today. And yes, we will go through a very complex transition because we have a multidimensional crisis. And this is worse than a war. I mean, we have a humanitarian crisis, a security crisis, a financial crisis, social services crisis, and at the same time, we have a state that has very weakened capacities. I mean, there's not even one single institution that is strong on the foot. So we have to start doing all at the same time. And the center of our proposal is trust. We have a country that is united, more than 90%. We have a wonderful diaspora that is Moses wanting to come back, and they have ideas, they want to start business, they want to invest, they're talented, and we have the support of you, of the international community. So we have a strong, robust plan of what we have to do comprehensively, from the economy to services to security to defense. We have a plan for the first 100 days with emergency activities, and certainly we have been in touch with several actors, aligning all stakeholders' interests. For instance, Venezuelan creditors, they are clear that they will never be repaid if Maduro stay in power. But we are willing to go into a rational, just process of restructuring our debts. The same happens with the energy companies, those that are already operating in Venezuela, those who want to come. I mean, there's no way Venezuela, under such a corrupt and criminal regime, keep maintaining these relations with international corporations. So everybody in the region and in the world should understand that Venezuela is today the single most important conflict to be solved in the Western Hemisphere, and that we have a real, clear, present tense opportunity to do it. So this is the moment to act, coordinate.
You are doing this at an incredible level of personal risk to your life. You're participating in the summit in many ways, a risk to your life. Why you? What led you to this place?
I couldn't be anywhere else. I only conceive my life in Venezuela and in freedom. And mine is the story of millions, anonymous heroes. And this goes beyond any of us. And I want you to understand that this has no way back. I mean, you cannot see this as only as an electoral political struggle. You would have stated only the surface. You have to go deeper. I mean, for us, this is an ethical struggle for the truth. It is an existential struggle for life, and it is a spiritual fight for the good. We want to live country and nation that our kids feel proud of. And this has united all of us. And we will prevail, have no doubt. And today, We need you, all freedom, democracy loving citizens in the world. This is the time to act. What we have done in Venezuela is an epic event. It is an epic journey, and its destination is freedom. No other.
Well, this is a awfully complicated, complex time for the world. I think that's being covered extensively at this summit, at the UN General Assembly, in this city this week. And I think historians will look back on this era and talk about, in many ways, the void of leadership that has existed during this time. But I think when they talk about true leadership, they will look to María Corina Machado as an ultimate example during this time. So thank you so much for being with us at the 14th Concordia Annual Summit.
Thank you.